Hi students, welcome to video 26. It is on mining and the environment. So what started off all of these mining impacts that we're going to see? In 1872, a law was passed, the U.S. General Mining Law, which basically encouraged people to go westward and expand. They could claim land very cheaply. We're talking about, $5, $10 an acre. And they could go in and mine on public lands. Now, in 1872, it was really cheap, and up until 1995, it was still the exact same price for this land. Luckily, we changed it. So in 92, we also said that you have to post the amount of money that the cleanup would require in case you go bankrupt in the process. So this big hole in the ground couldn't just remain there. So here's some good and bad things that go with mining. Know some advantages. The disadvantages we'll get to a lot more as we go through, but jot down a few advantages right now. So definitely income, income for cities, states, countries. Developing countries, oftentimes, this is the way they make a lot of money, is through their mineral resources. It does employ people. It provides progress because we're using it for buildings, cars, and electronics. And we do occasionally discover something new. So scientific discovery is also a good thing. Disadvantages, we're basically going to be looking at air, water, land pollution, all of these different things as we go forward. So, what are some things from exploration and extraction that are harmful to the environment? There's going to be 6 that we talk about. The first one is disruption of land. So, you have overburden that has to be removed. That's the O, A, B, C horizons. You end up getting tailings left behind after you've taken off the minerals that you're actually looking for. Because of this, plants can't grow in these toxic environments. There's also your topsoil has become eroded because you took it all away. And you could get something called subsidence, which is basically a cave in. You get the land sinks down because you took all the stuff out of it. You can also have coal fires. And there's a very famous one in Pennsylvania, Centralia, Pennsylvania, that has been burning since 1962. And we think it was a fire that was deliberately set with trash, but I don't think the people realized that it was going to be burning 50, 60 years later. And this is a picture of steam or smoke coming out of the road here. And this city has basically been abandoned because there's so many problems related to these coal fires and these coal mines. You also can get acid mine drainage. This is when sulfur minerals react with oxygen and water and they produce sulfuric acid. Mine effluent is the water that seeps out of the mines and goes into the streams that carries the sulfuric acid with it. So a little bit more behind the chemistry of acid mine drainage. You don't need to know the balanced formula, but you do need to know the general formula. So you have things that have sulfur in them, pyrite, for example. That's fool's gold. You have water, you have oxygen. It reacts and makes iron oxide, which is basically rust. You have sulfates and you have acid. And you have hydrogen. And this combined is where you get that sulfuric acid, which is acid producing. So we also have groundwater pollution from toxic waste. The tailings have sulfuric acid. They have mercury, cyanide, overburden. The sediment itself can run off and pollute waterways, but it also has sulfuric acid. It can leach out all these heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, lead, zinc. Cyanide heat leaching, this is the way that we get gold now. We basically have gold in a big hill. It's gold-bearing rock, so it's little tiny pieces of gold in it. And the way that we extract the gold is we pour water and cyanide solution over the heap, and it dissolves the gold, and it takes the gold with it in this solution. So the solution is then collected, and you extract the gold. The problem is you get a lot of cyanide that's left behind. You also get hydrogen cyanide formed, which is a toxic gas. So these are, this is not necessarily the best way to do this, but it is the cheapest. A couple more things. You're moving forests to clear out the land to get to the resources. So obviously that's a loss of biodiversity and increased erosion because you took out the plant roots. And finally, we have disease. This is a human impact. COPD, chronic bronchitis, lung diseases, emphysema, and black lung disease, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But here's a picture of a healthy lung. Here's a picture of a coal miner's lung. So looking at transportation, purification, manufacturing, this is the processing step. So this, again, you're creating sulfuric acid, mercury, toxic metals. You're also you're discarding the tailings after you've done this processing, a lot of times in valleys, and the tailings themselves have these toxic substances in it, heavy metals. This is the highest industrial air polluter, with just basically all toxic emissions, is the processing of our materials. And this is a little bit more about how does smelting work. So smelting separates the desired ore and the gangue. The gangue, remember, is our waste. And then we can actually go in again. It's called beneficiation. And we can separate additional ore from the gangue. So if we separated something up here before, then we have this left over. We can separate something else, and then that's more ore that we wanted. And now you have the tailings, which are still toxic. So which one's worse, subsurface or surface mining? Subsurface is less environmentally destructive. It uses about 1/10 of the land, but it's much more dangerous in terms of human health impact. Walls can fall on you, gases can explode, you inhale dust. I blew up this picture to make it a little bit bigger just so you could see in case you didn't before. Again, no mining. And then this was a coal mining worker, probably somebody who worked in the mine 10 to 15 years. So it's a very striking difference of this. So again, coal mining is very, very bad in terms of the environment and human health. It is the worst type of mining that we can do. So these are some pictures environmentally. You also see the coal miners coming out of the coal mine. They're covered in coal dust, which they've also inhaled in their lungs. And since it is such kind of a hot topic right now, politically, socially, all these things, how many people are actually working in the coal industry? How many people will we actually be laying off if we got away from coal? So 2017, 50,000 people were employed by the coal industry. What does that look like compared to other things? Well, for every one coal miner, there are 36 salespeople. So what this tells you is that it's not as many people as you might think if you listen to a lot of the news and the media right now. So we could definitely find something for those 50,000 people who are kind of a pretty small group to do, in terms of maybe we could train them on alternative energies or something along those lines. But they would also probably appreciate not developing black lung disease. So a few more impacts of mining. The ocean, we do dredging along the shores. We're destroying the shoreline communities. We're looking for sand, gravel, diamonds, sometimes even. And we talked about manganese nodules on the ocean floor. That can destroy the sea communities if we are going down there and basically scooping up the soil, the surface of the ocean floor. It can also cause noise pollution, which can distract animals that need sound to communicate, find mates, and you can cause suspended sediment pollution. You're basically, moving everything around down there and causing sediment to be hung in the water, which is usually not the case. So what can we do? The Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act was enacted in 1977 to regulate active coal mines and to reclaim abandoned mines. Reclamation is basically returning it to a useful purposes or restoring the land. This law also said that adverse impacts on the environment must be minimized. And it created an abandoned mine reclamation fund for coal mines that were already dug and abandoned. So now we could go in and we could actually clean those up. So what is this impacting? Well, there's 500,000 sites around the U.S. that could get money from this. The problem is there's not enough money right now. It will require $70 billion to clean up every single site. So we're going one site at a time. Problem with that is there's a lot of pollution problems associated with sites that have been left and have not been cleaned up yet. All right, that's it. Bring your questions tomorrow and be ready for